Welcome to I Said What I Said, a sports podcast giving you opinions not heard anywhere else. I'm your host, Brad Wakai, alongside my co-host, Tyson Gentry. Tyson, we got a fun one today, man. We've been chomping at the bit to put this
For
one out.
11 years.
For
We've been chomping
11
at the
years.
bit.
What might we be talking about? Oh, come on, man. We all know. We're all fans here. College Football 25 video game coming out. EA Sports finally releasing this thing, the whole NIL thing, yada, yada, the whole circus. We don't have to go through the winding roads there. We're just going to talk about this football game. And Tyson and I are going to give our thoughts on it, talk about opinions that you're not going to hear anywhere else. We're going to give you some thoughts as avid fans of this game back in the day. Tyson, I know you're pumped up for this one. You got it pre-ordered, you said?
I got it pre-ordered. I got it downloaded. I am ready to roll. The number one thing, Brad, you said that we're going to say stuff that people haven't heard. If you're listening to this episode, you've probably been waiting just like us for 11 years, and you've been taking in every piece of content. So just sit on the ride with us for a little bit while we get excited. I mean, this was, you come home from school, you boot this up, and you play it until you have to go to bed. You wake up on the weekends, and you play this bad boy. You get your Old Dominion Dynasty or your Buffalo Dynasty or whatever else all the way cooking. And man, I'm so excited to do it again.
Oh, I can't wait. I remember the first time they hooked up that you could put your college football player and get that player drafted in the Madden instead of like your Madden guy sucking like originally and you get drafted terribly. Oh, that was the best. I mean, I never switched the game. I just played those games, built different players of different positions up and put them in the NFL. Like that was my favorite thing to do.
And hopefully, and I know it's not in this one, Brad, but a wish list item for maybe next year's game. I want my Road to Glory player to be able to start as a coordinator somewhere. Like if you're going to let us be coordinators, let me work through this creative guy's entire life, right? I get him when he's 18. He's going to retire after 60 years in the dynasty at 78 years old. That's what I want.
Wow. Do you want to talk about commitment?
That's what it is.
That really is. That's what this game's about, man. And so let's talk a little bit about the gameplays, what you're most looking forward to yourself, Tyson. If you want to run through that, I know you've been texting me the updates about what we got coming out.
Yeah, so essentially, like if you don't know anything about this game, you're gonna have your dynasty mode. You know it, you love it, right? You create your coach, you recruit your players, you take over your team. You're gonna have your Road to Glory mode. While you go through from high school to college, and then as Brad mentioned, college to the pros. I know that they're offering the EA and Madden bundle as one. So if you're into both those games, maybe check that out. Save a couple bucks. This year they're going to have Ultimate Team in college football, which is not my favorite mode, Brad. It's not my favorite. It's not.
Okay.
It's not my pocket's favorite. It's not my favorite to watch my nephew spend all of his Xbox money on that he gets for every Christmas. But if you're into Ultimate Team, this is going to be really cool. And then, like they have season modes and everything else, they're going to be running off a similar or the same engine as Madden. But we've received word, apparently, somebody said it on the internet, so I'm going to believe them, that there are going to be distinct differences in gameplay between these two games, which if you're a fan of Madden, you've noticed has gotten so shitty over it's just so bad. And so now I think that that little bit of hope that we have, it might be quickly dashed on January or July 16th when we boot this thing up with that early access. But the fact that it's not just a 1-for-1 Madden reskin is pretty exciting.
Yeah, because that's was the worry, right? Like, oh, is it just going to be a reskin? Is it just going to be Madden, but they're just going to slap college logos? Talk through me about that a little bit, Tyson, because that was my worry, I guess, when it initially came out. But I know you've really kind of put to bed some of the concerns I've had. Then I've kind of watched certain things that you've sent me clips and what people are saying about it. It sounds like this is going to be a sick game.
Yeah, so if you're into the NCAA football 14, you know that the game ended or didn't come out in 2015, but we've been making revamps since then, right? So if you're really into it, you've probably been playing as these updated rosters. Well, EA noticed that, and they took a couple of the guys and gals that helped make that happen and put them on the team. They have a separate, apparently, developmental team from the Madden group, and they relied a lot on the guys that used to make the NCAA football games. And so, like, the fact that they're leaning into this, Brad, I shared this with you, and I'll share it with the audience. What I think they're doing is they're swinging as big as they can for the first year. And then we'll see how next year looks, and if next year is maybe just a reskin of this college football game, and if there's any improvements made. So what I think overall about the whole thing is I'm very encouraged that they're actually listening to the community here and trying to get feedback, and they damn well better. We've been waiting so long for this thing, and it's perfect. Like I still play NCAA 2006 on the PS2. I just want it to be half that good.
So I think the one that I've played in the past, now this one I was growing up, was Road to Glory, right? Like I wanted to build up my guy because I still had dreams of playing college football, right? So you could envision yourself,
Yes,
being the student athlete and having the glory, winning the Heisman Trophy, doing insane stuff on the football field. But Tyson, I gotta say, now that I'm older and my bad knee, let's just put it that way, prevented me from playing college football. That's sarcasm. I think I'm going to be more into dynasty this time around, where it's about the recruiting, about program building, because I can kind of see it from that angle, and that's really how I've been experiencing college football from this point. So I'm curious to know as I play these games, these game modes, which I like better. But I think I'm going to be the dynasty guy now.
good. Welcome to the correct side of gaming, brother. This is where you should have always been. I think that this, like the dynasty mode in the NCAA football video games, was the best mode in any sports video game growing up. Like if you're from our era, essentially if you were born in the late 90s or maybe a little later, this is what you grew up doing. So yeah, dude, dynasty is the best. I'm interested to see how the transfer portal works, and I already know I'm putting rules on myself. I'm not allowed to cheese the system because I'm going to figure out a way to get all my guys back, and that's not realistic enough. Brad, I might have to impose a death penalty on a program here and really start things over with a bunch of 40 overalls. I'm getting hyped.
Hopefully it's Ohio State.
I can do that for you.
That would make my Penn State
You
heart
ever do
proud.
that? So you weren't a dynasty guy, but curious for the people out there, you can drop it in the comments. When you're going through and you're in the coaching carousel, and like a Notre Dame job or an Ohio State job comes up for me, it was always an instant decline. My guy would never go there. I hold these biases over to real life when maybe I shouldn't. Maybe it'd be more fun for my made up guy to head to South Bend, Indiana, but I'll never do it.
Well, I'm pumped, man. I can't wait. I know you're gonna be playing it early. I may have to jump on that release. I can't have you getting good and then we play the cross promo. Now that I finally got access to the internet, or however the kids say it, on my PlayStation. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I can jump on board that. But here's where we're going to kind of get into some more of our opinion stuff. Will this make players superstars again? That's something that Tyson and I wanted to touch on because, even back in the day when you had number 5 or wide receiver number 3 and, offensive tackle 77, if you're a college football fan, you knew who that was. Now, the reason why we say again, sure, we know these guys. It's different than college basketball where they're one and dones. Like it's 3 years at a minimum before they go to the NFL. But Tyson, it feels like it's an audition for the NFL, right? But does this turn them into like, oh my God, this guy's a legend for Oregon. I get to play him on this video game. I love this guy.
Absolutely. And I think what's going to happen, it won't happen like at the high level, like Daniel Jeremiah is not going to do this, but you're going to be running through Twitter, Brad, and you're going to see a bunch of guys that are all the way in on whatever running back from Tulsa or whoever that they have that they've made into a 91 overall when he comes out in the draft. I absolutely think it'll make players superstars. I think the number one thing to mention is their last names are in the game now. Like you don't have to do the extra work when you're playing 2 programs you've never necessarily watched on TV, and then you have to go on your phone. Or in the old days, you had to hop on the computer and figure out, hey, who is this guy? When are they playing next? I want to check this out. So I think absolutely it'll help make them superstars. And I think that there are some guys at the top of college football, like I'm thinking of Luther Burden in my mind specifically right now, who the general public doesn't necessarily know about. But if you've been watching college football, like this guy is the best in the country. At least in my opinion, McMillan in your backyard down there in Arizona is obviously a really good player too. But there are going to be guys. It's just a year late too, is the thing. Like I'm just picturing, man, what if we had Jaden Daniels and Malik Neighbors and Marvin Harrison and all of these guys? But yeah, it's going to drive everything up. I think with the NIL and college football right now, some of these dudes are going to get money off of how good they are in the game.
Yeah, I think this is going to help defensive players. I think this is going to turn them into stars because, and Ndamukong Suh and some of these guys from the past and who are great players, Manti Te'o, like we know these guys because they're putting together good seasons, but those are flash on the pans. We always have star quarterbacks. We always have star running backs. We always have star receivers, but when kids are able to play with, the edge rusher, and you're able to get sacks because you're able to jump the snap and you snap count, boom, and you're just wreaking havoc. All of a sudden, you're like, this guy's good. I like this guy. And you follow him and you become a fan of him. I actually think this is going to do more for the defensive players than the offense, because everybody knows about the offense, right? It's fun. It's sexy. Like, you see the points. We see that on Saturdays, but on Tuesday when you're grinding at midnight and you got to get after the passer and you're playing online, you're going to like the guy who's putting that strip sack together for you.
The bad news is nobody in the country is going to know a single puncher's name anymore.
Yeah, that's true. But I used to be in college football. You didn't really know a lot of the punters anyway, especially out west in the Big 12 and the Pac-12. So I think we're simpatico here. I'm curious to know, like you said with the NIL, is it going to boost their profile? Like, what comes of this for these football players? I think that's a huge thing that we got to keep in mind and kind of monitor too.
Yeah, absolutely. Dude, I'm sitting here right now getting excited, and I know we have more stuff to go into, but I just want the game to come out.
Yeah, me too. I'm pumped. Okay, let's get into this. The most annoyingly overrated team. Now, I have the top 25 list in terms of their power rankings, Tyson. I don't know if you have a more extensive list, but we're not going to go through every team or the top 25. We're just going to kind of go through some teams that are ranked pretty high, and we just know it's going to piss us off.
Yeah, I mean, number one, and it should jump out to everybody, but the Colorado Buffaloes sitting here at 16th overall in the country, 87. I mean, they're a one rating point behind an Ole Miss team who, like, we'll get into our previews, but I'd say it right now, I think they're going to make the college football playoff. This is the only time I've ever wanted rankings updates for a college game, because I would like to see Colorado go from 87 to 84 to 81 to finish the season at a nice cool 76.
Well, this won't come as a surprise to you, Tyson. Having Iowa 87 overall, the number 25 team, what are we doing here, man?
What's the average there? Like, what does the defense have to be to get them to an 87?
It's got to be high. I'm pulling it
up. Let's be optimistic for an Iowa offense. Where are we landing for an overall?
Well, Iowa's defense is 88 overall. So it's got to be in the 70s, right? 75? No, I don't know how
it's got to be higher than that to average out to 87, I would think. And that's not necessarily how it works, but it's 77 was like my optimistic number. So if that's where the offense is, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be cool. They've put so much work into the game. You can do the wave with the fans at Iowa. You can wave to them as you drop 110 points on that 87 overall defense.
Well, I was going to say, here's why I think they're going to be annoyingly overrated, because they're going to make that defense just stacked, right? Like, Iowa's defense is good, but it's going to be to the point where you're like, all right, come on, this isn't the 85 Bears. Because they have to make up for the fact that they're an 87, because that offense, there's no way that – if you want to make it realistic, have them throwing the ball out of bounds 17,000 times, because that's all Iowa can do. But, I mean, Brian Ferentz, Tyson, he is gone, so maybe they gave him a bump because of that. I don't know, but my goodness. When I saw that, I was like, come on.
Yeah, and it's funny because they're listed at 25. They share the same ranking as everybody 16 and below. And I believe only the top 25 are out. So we'll probably have some more teams like Cal is going to get overrated or whoever else that we're going to sit here and go, no, I don't agree with that at all. But from what we have to work with, those are the ones that jumped out to me as well.
Yeah, let's go to most criminally underrated. Who jumps out for you?
Well, I think like underrated to me in the sense that they're going to be the most fun team to play with in this game. And I'm already kind of circling the Liberty Flames, man. Like, you're going out there with Salter and Cooley. And this is a game where you run the football. It always has been. And maybe with the new change, because Madden is a little bit more, huck it and chuck it kind of football. So maybe it'll change. But you're walking with two of the top 100 rated players in the game. Just an explosive offense. And unless you're realigning conferences, you're walking to the playoffs, brother. And we're in year one. I might have to go take that thing over. Sorry, Hugh. But I think that Liberty is going to be really fun to play with in this game.
Well, Hugh's down in Auburn now. You're talking about your boy Jamie Chadwell.
Goodness. Yeah, it's all flying around. I'm having a hard time keeping track of players, let alone coaches.
That's gonna be the game too, Tyson. Like, we're gonna play with all these teams, so I think we're gonna start storing the memory, because all this realignment, all this transfer portal stuff has messed us up. But the game's gonna ground us, that's for sure. I'm going the same approach for mine for the underrated team. Like, who's gonna be fun to play with, who I think is gonna be like an insane offense and great from a video game perspective, and that's Ole Miss. I mean, 15th, 88th overall. Like their defense may stink, but that offense, come on, Jackson Dart slinging around to all those studs on the outside. Like they're going to give a bump to the spread offense and the just chuck it and go type of approach that Lane has. That's going to be a fun offense to play with. I can't believe they're this low.
No, yeah, I am in agreement there with you. I was also thinking maybe we give a little love to your boys, Texas Tech. I think that's going to be a fun team as well. And I know that's your favorite team in college football, but I think like you're going to beat Taj Brooks. Like that's a good player to be in a video game.
Oh, that's funny. Texas State schools, baby. We're back on the train here soon.
Yeah, you're going to be in trouble. You're going to have 7 dynasties going with all the UTS schools.
I'm gonna get UTSA back to prominence. I'm gonna get Frank Harris come back for his 10th year of college football.
There you go.
All right, let's roll through this biggest surprise player rankings. We'll kind of go through a few of them here, but here on EA there is a track or like I don't even know what you call it, like a filter, and you can compare different players, so you can go to different positions, which is fun. So if you want to take a peek at where these guys are at, you can do that on your own. Tyson, who stood out to you and you're like, come on?
Well, first of all, I want to say I think it's cool that the top 2 guys essentially on this list are Will Johnson and Will Campbell, a corner and an offensive lineman, respectively. I think that's probably the way it should be in college football. And I hate to keep piling on the Colorado Buffaloes here, but you're telling me Travis Hunter's the 6th best player in college football? Like, I don't believe it. You're telling me Shedeur Sanders is the best quarterback in college football? I don't believe that either. Now, both these guys are probably going to be good pros, and they might end up being the best at what they do this season. But, like, Travis Hunter is the 6th best player at what position, right? Like, what are we talking about? He is, if you want to say he's a top 5 receiver in the country and a top 5 corner in the country, then maybe I can get behind you, but he can't be both. Like, not at the same time. And to me, that's kind of – but video game wise, dude, he might as well be one.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Like Travis Hunter's a name. Like, EA Sports wants to be good. Yeah. I gotta say, man, on that front, I mean, Quinn Ewers a 92 overall behind. I mean, it's 1 point behind Sanders and Beck, but video game wise, come on, he's gonna be able to just loft it up there. He throws a great deep ball. Like I was surprised when I saw him 3rd on the quarterback list.
Yeah, that was interesting. I thought that your boy Abdul Carter, I know that we're not necessarily getting into defensive players here, but it's a little low for me to say that he's the 47th best player in college football. I think Abdul Carter is really good, and I think that you'd be hard-pressed to find a non-video game list that had him anywhere. I think outside the top 15 is getting disrespectful. But one guy that I do think was a little overrated, Brad, we've had this conversation about real life, Donovan Edwards. Checking in here really high for a guy who kind of feels like we're remembering one game 2 years ago. And then maybe that's disrespectful. He's been really good other than that, but certainly made his hay in the national spotlight there with those breakaway runs to put Ohio State away.
You know what I've noticed? So Travis Hunter's on the cover, Donovan Edwards on the cover. They got a bump, right? Like we're both sitting here like, And then my complaint, what about Quinn Ewers? Why didn't he get the bump?
Maybe he did. Maybe they think he sucks.
Yeah, true. That's a good point. Here's what I was happy to see, and I'm surprised in a good way. Ashton Genty, the running back from Boise State, sitting here at a 91. That even might be a little too low, if I'm being honest. But he's a stud. I'm glad that he got some recognition because, sometimes with these mid-majors, they don't really get the respect that they deserve. It goes to all the big name guys. But I was glad to see that he got highly placed on this overall list.
Yeah, and if you go through this list, there are some guys here where it was like maybe they're just trying to fit in, somebody from the bottom of this conference that they can throw in here. But when you're ranking 10,000 players, it's a pretty tough job. So we're sitting here going, oh, this guy's overrated, this guy's underrated. I'm just glad there's rankings at all.
I'm trying to find my guy Drew Aller here, but he's not popping up.
He is not on the top 100.
He's not on the top. He's not even 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. He's not in the top 8 quarterbacks. I guess we'll have to prove him wrong. Come on, baby. Okay. So we got a list here, Tyson. The toughest places to play. Now, this is what
the only
really,
problem that I have with this whole game. Like,
this is what really drew some ire on the internet.
Yeah, I'm. So if you don't know the list, we'll kind of like run through it briefly. We're not going to touch on all 25. The go with. Oh, there we go. They got Kyle Field 1. They hold 1 million people. Like, I'm not gonna be mad at you for having Kyle Field at number 1. I don't necessarily I don't think the track record shows that it might be the toughest place to play. Bryant-Denny Stadium at 2, the University of Alabama. We were having this conversation. Is Bryant-Denny the second hardest place to play in the country, or has Alabama just been so good for so long that it feels like nobody walks in there and wins because they've been leagues better than everybody they've played?
I think it's that one. I mean, if you talk to people who like go into Alabama, it's not like Bryant-Denny is the most raucous place to play a football game. Like, it's not the biggest stadium. It's not the loudest stadium. It's just that Nick Saban, you get your ass kicked every time you went in there.
That's true, and it's not Tiger Stadium, which was 3, and that's my main complaint. That's the number 1 stadium in the country, folks. Don't get it twisted, okay? Another one here with Ohio State. It's like, yes, they've won all their home games. I've never been to an Ohio State game, so maybe I'm speaking out of turn, but I've never watched an Ohio State game on the TV and been like, wow, that's a must stop for me. It just looks like 100,000 people watching their NFL team beat the shit out of Rutgers.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. And then when you go through it, Beaver Stadium 6, like, in what world is Beaver Stadium, Penn State, that everybody knows about the whiteout and the atmosphere? How is that not in the top 5? I mean, it's louder than Ohio State. It's a tougher place to play. It's crazy. And so, like, I know they have past home success. That's one of the metrics. They have a couple different things they factored in here. So, yeah, sure. I mean, Ohio State has won more times at home. They've also just won more times in general. Like, if that's what we're doing. But if we want to talk about toughest actual places and noise and toughest environment, like, I think they should revamp this list.
Yeah, and if you scroll down, my main complaint here is with number 18 on this list. It's Utah Stadium. I'm forgetting the exact name. Rice-Eccles Stadium here. Nobody walks into Utah and goes, all right, this will be fine. It's like you walk into Utah and go, I hope I leave with all my starters. That's like your number one thing. The elevation is crazy. People are not always prepared to play in that. I think that this is the most, to me, there are a lot of overrated ones on this list. I think this is probably the most underrated. I would say that in my personal opinion, I would think that Utah is a top 10 toughest place to go and play right now.
Yeah, I would agree with that for sure. And you said it too, the altitude. This only goes to top 25. Really? Michigan State?
I know.
Really? Okay. If that's what you want to talk about. Jordan Hare 14, that feels a little disrespectful, Tyson. Same with Autzen Stadium at 11. I mean, that's a tough place to play. But when you kind of look at it, Oklahoma, all right, Camp Randall's tough. Wisconsin, University of Florida, the Swamp, that's a tough place. So it's hard to find a place for Autzen, but man, there's some teams that got left out that I'm like, okay, we'll see.
I know. I'm sitting here thinking about how loud Washington Stadium is. Like, I think were they the second loudest stadium in all of college football last year, and they don't appear on this list because
they don't appear.
Outside of last year, they sucked. And so it's, to me,
right.
If you win 100 games, right, and you go 15-0 on the road, 15-0 at home, you don't have a home field advantage. If you win one game and you lose 99 on the road and you win the one at home, that's the biggest home field advantage as it can get. So I think that the metric of wins should maybe come at percentage or something like that. You'd have to ask somebody smarter than me, but come on, EA. That's my only complaint.
Yeah, that was a tough one. I know when that one was released, because, we kind of understand what the players like. People are upset about Sanders and Hunter, Travis Hunter and Shedeur Sanders, where it's like, what's to really be upset about? It's a video game, right? Like, people are going to be playing with Colorado for all time. Like, tons of people are going to play. You don't want them to suck. Like, okay, we can understand that. But this is where we got to draw the line here, man. This is college football. This is the toughest places to play. That is the lifeblood.
Yes, it seems like maybe spitting in the face of what we know to be true, that we have 50 years of evidence for in some of these cases. Maybe they're just making Penn State kick off at noon like every week in Dynasty.
Oh man, well, it seems like that's what the Big Ten's trying to do now. I mean, my God, you want to talk about me getting a little upset? Oof, Big Ten not taking care of us over in Happy Valley,
and that's been true for quite a while. So I don't think this is a new development for the way the conference between treating Penn State. But that did remind me, apparently you're going to get different broadcast crews and different voices, different levels as far as like the importance of the game, how good your team is. So all of this stuff sounds awesome. And I'm just excited for it to take place so we can really tell you what we think.
Oh, I can't wait. And Dyson and I are looking into even doing maybe some live stream stuff. We don't want to tease too much, but and if we can't make it happen, we're not the most technologically literate, but if we could do something, and if you guys want to do something, like we'd love to. We're playing this game. Like, I know we're all pumped, and so we're excited for that. But that's going to do it for this. We'll give you an update on this stuff. Don't worry. We'll have some stuff here. So that's why you got to stay connected to us. Subscribe to the show, whether you're watching on YouTube, whether you're listening in podcast form. Just the easiest way to make sure that this thing hits your feed is by subscribing and then liking it. If you're on YouTube, smashing that like button, that helps us out, helps us become more discoverable, all that good stuff. And then if you're listening to podcast form, please give us a 5-star if you haven't already. Helps us become more discoverable again and climbs up the charts, all that good stuff. And then, of course, sharing the show. We got a ton of content coming out as we get into college football season. So stay connected. We got you covered. Contact us on our socials if you want to stay speaking with us in the meantime. But we'll be back doing something next week. We're not sure yet, but it's going to be football related. So stay tuned, and we'll talk to y'all then, guys. Have a good weekend. Peace.